It was one of those afternoons in the Arizona desert where the heat presses down so heavily you can feel it in your bones, and every sound seems amplified. The hiss of the wind, the distant caw of a raven, the creak of dry branches bending under their own weight. Mia squinted against the glare, sweat trickling down her temple, stomach fluttering with both the heat and the fact that she was, quite literally, lost. She'd been hitchhiking, trying to get home from Phoenix to visit her sister, but the driver she trusted had vanished somewhere down the dirt road, leaving her alone in this endless expanse of sand, cacti, and scrub brush. And she was 6 months pregnant. Every step was exhausting. Every movement carried risk. She shifted her weight, trying to find a patch of shade beneath a small Palo Verde tree, but even that offered little relief. Her heart was hammering, not just from the physical exertion, but from fear. Her mind spun, each thought colliding with the next. Where's the car? What if I collapse? What if I don't see anyone before night falls? What about the baby? Panic threatened to overtake her, a sensation she hadn't felt so sharply in months. Her hands shook, her breathing became shallow, and for a moment, it felt as if the desert itself had swallowed her whole. And then she saw him, a dog, moving steadily across the desert sand, eyes fixed on her with an intensity she had never seen in any animal before. A medium-sized Australian cattle dog, fur mottled in grays and blues, muscles rippling under his coat, ears pricked, tail stiff. At first, Mia froze, unsure whether to run or stay. The dog didn't approach aggressively, didn't bark. He simply observed her, gauging, assessing, waiting. She could feel the tension in his posture and instinctively understood. He was aware of the danger she was walking straight into. It was more than instinct. There was something in the dog's eyes that said, "I know what's coming, and I'll protect you." Mia had never trusted a stranger this way, least of all an animal, but something about him grounded her. She swallowed hard, unsure if she should take a step forward or remain still, but the dog's low growl, cautious but steady, told her that he wasn't there to hurt her. He was there to help. The warning came almost immediately. From a shallow depression in the sand, a rattlesnake began to emerge, coiling, its rattle trembling like a tiny metronome of impending danger. Mia froze, her stomach twisting. She had read about snakes before, but reading is one thing. This was real, alive, deadly, and dangerously close. She had nowhere to run. Her body betrayed her. Every instinct screamed to move, yet every rational thought told her, "Don't panic." The dog, whom she would soon learn was named Blue, stepped between her and the snake. His growl deepened, a sound that vibrated through the air, a warning both to the snake and, somehow, to Mia. He didn't attack recklessly. Instead, he circled carefully, snapping at the air near the snake's head, forcing it to coil back, distracted. Mia could hardly breathe. The adrenaline coursing through her body felt both terrifying and strangely clarifying. She realized, as the dog moved, that this wasn't just instinct. It was courage, deliberate and intelligent. The desert seemed to hold its breath. The wind stilled for a moment, and Mia could hear the rattle more clearly now, each vibration a countdown she didn't want to hear. Blue was relentless, eyes never leaving the snake, posture tense but controlled, muscles coiled like springs. He darted forward with precision, snapping at the snake, then pivoting to place himself again between Mia and the threat. She felt a surge of awe. This animal, a stray nobody had wanted, was performing a ballet of protection, using his body as a shield, using instinct as strategy. And then the danger multiplied. From the surrounding brush, 2 more rattlesnakes slithered toward her, drawn by vibrations in the sand, their heads rising in curiosity and threat. Mia's breath caught in her throat. Her mind raced. She was trapped, overwhelmed, terrified, and exhausted all at once. Blue didn't hesitate. He circled, barked sharply, moving to intercept each snake as they approached. One lunged near his paw, and he leapt aside, growling, snapping, redirecting it away from Mia. The coordination, the intelligence, the bravery, it was beyond instinct. This was heroism, raw and palpable. Mia's thoughts were a jumble. She could barely think clearly, yet she felt the most profound sense of trust she had ever known. She whispered softly, "Thank you, even though she wasn't sure if Blue could understand. Somehow, she felt he did. Somehow, She felt the sincerity of the words touch him, reinforcing his determination. The bond forming in that harsh desert, under the blazing sun and rattling threat, was immediate, raw, and unbreakable. Time seemed to stretch. The snakes tested, struck, and recoiled. Blue darted, barked, and circled, never leaving Mia's side. Sweat ran down her back. Her legs ached. Her arms trembled. But she stayed where she was, following his lead. She realized she wasn't moving through this alone. For the first time that day, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she could survive this ordeal. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The sun burned high, beating down relentlessly. Blue's tongue lolled slightly as he panted, muscles twitching, but his vigilance never wavered. The snakes, frustrated and cautious, began to retreat back toward their burrows. The immediate danger diminished, but Blue remained alert, keeping a protective distance between Mia and the desert hazards. She took a careful step backward, following him, and the trust she had placed in him guided every movement. Mia couldn't stop trembling. Her heart was racing. Tears pricked her eyes from fear and relief, but she smiled faintly, awed by the courage of this dog who had appeared from nowhere. She felt a connection that she had never imagined possible with an animal, a bond forged under fire, or in this case, under fangs and venomous coils. Blue nudged her gently, guiding her toward a slight depression that would provide temporary shade, and she leaned against him, feeling the weight of safety settle over her. And then, for the first time since she had been left alone in the desert, she dared to breathe normally again. She realized something fundamental. Heroism doesn't always wear a uniform, and bravery doesn't always come in human form. Sometimes, it comes on four legs, with fur and unwavering loyalty, and in moments of extreme danger, it manifests in ways that leave a person speechless. The heat of the desert still pressed down on them, and the snakes weren't gone forever, but the immediate crisis had passed. Mia's adrenaline slowly began to ebb, and she took stock of the scene. She was alive. She was protected, and somehow, through instinct, intelligence, and courage, Blue had kept her safe from something that could have ended everything in a single strike. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the sand and cacti, Mia felt a shift in herself. She had been terrified, yes, but she had also learned trust in a form she hadn't known before. Blue, the dog nobody wanted, had shown her that courage, loyalty, and heroism could come in the most unexpected packages. And in that vast, unforgiving desert, under the relentless Arizona sun, Mia knew that she had found a companion she could rely on, not just to survive, but to carry her forward through whatever challenges might come next. And that's where part 1 ends. The hook, the introduction of Mia and Blue, the deadly threat of the rattlesnakes, and the formation of their unshakable bond. Part 2 will escalate the tension, showing Blue's heroic actions in full, the struggle against multiple threats, and the intense suspense of survival in the desert. The desert seemed to stretch on forever, heat radiating off the sand, making the air waver and ripple like a liquid mirror. Mia crouched low, her breath shallow, sweat stinging her eyes, and the sun beating down so hard it felt like it could burn straight through her skin. Blue, the Australian cattle dog, stood unwavering in front of her, ears forward, muscles coiled, eyes scanning the surrounding scrub and cacti. His growl was low and steady, a warning to any snake or predator foolish enough to come near. He was a small dog, yes, but what he lacked in size, he more than made up for in courage, intelligence, and sheer willpower. And the danger was far from over. The rattlesnakes had begun to slither back toward Mia, alerted by the movement and vibrations in the sand. One coiled high, ready to strike, the tiny rattle on its tail vibrating rapidly, and Mia felt her heart seize. She had no way to defend herself. Her hands shook too much, and every step she took risked getting too close to the snakes. Blue, however, moved with precision and timing that seemed almost preternatural. He darted to the side, snapping at a snake's head, making it recoil, then repositioned between Mia and the next threat. Each movement was purposeful, strategic, calculated. This wasn't reckless bravery. It was survival, protection, and heroism all in one. Mia tried to keep her breathing steady, whispering softly to herself, "Stay calm, stay calm." But every second felt stretched, every sound magnified. The hiss of a rattler, the scrape of sand beneath the dog's paws, the rattle of the tail that seemed closer than it should be. Blue barked sharply, and one of the snakes lunged toward him. He leapt to the side, narrowly avoiding fangs, then snapped again, redirecting the snake away from Mia. The dog's body was tense, muscles rippling under his fur, every instinct focused entirely on protection. Mia felt a mix of awe and terror. She had never seen such precision, such courage. And then, another snake appeared from behind a small cactus, coiling in preparation to strike. Mia froze, paralyzed with fear, and for a heartbeat, it seemed like there was no way out. But Blue was there. He lunged forward, growling, snapping, intercepting the snake before it could reach her. The tip of the rattler's fangs came close enough to scratch the dog's paw, and Mia gasped. Blue yelped briefly, shook it off, and returned immediately to his defensive position. Her mind reeled. This dog is risking his life for me. Time seemed suspended. The desert heat, the endless sand, the scorching sun, the coiling snakes. All of it faded into a tunnel of adrenaline and fear. Mia's heart raced, her body trembling, but she began to notice something extraordinary. The dog wasn't just reacting. He was anticipating. Every shift, every snap, every lunge was measured. He was her guardian, her protector, her shield. And Mia, exhausted and terrified, began to feel the tiniest thread of trust weaving through her panic. A particularly aggressive rattlesnake lunged, fangs bared. Blue met it head-on, snapping, leaping, forcing it to strike the sand inches from Mia's foot. She squealed and scrambled backward, and Blue nudged her gently with his nose, guiding her to a slightly safer spot near a rocky outcrop. She leaned against the jagged rock, panting, trying to steady herself, while Blue darted back and forth, keeping the snakes at bay. The fight was relentless, but the dog was relentless too. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The snake struck again and again, testing, probing, curious, and dangerous. Blue countered each one, his movements fluid, almost elegant. He snapped, barked, and darted, a ballet of protection, a display of instinct and courage that seemed almost impossible given his size. Mia could barely comprehend what she was witnessing. A dog that nobody wanted, abandoned, overlooked. This same dog was saving her life, risking injury, guiding her with a precision she couldn't fully understand. And then came the most terrifying moment. One of the snakes, larger than the others, lunged toward Mia's exposed ankle. Blue reacted instantly, intercepting, yelping as the fangs grazed his paw. He twisted, snapped, and forced the snake away, but Mia could see the scratch forming, a thin streak of blood on his leg. She gasped aloud, panic threatening to overtake her again, but the dog's eyes remained locked on the threat, unwavering. Pain did not deter him. Fear did not deter him. Loyalty and courage did. Mia whispered through tears, "You're amazing, you're amazing," though she wasn't sure he could understand. Somehow, she felt he did. Somehow, she felt the weight of his sacrifice, the depth of his bravery, in every tense muscle, every sharp bark, every calculated dodge. He had become more than a dog. He was a guardian, a hero, a protector she had never asked for but desperately needed. The heat of the desert, the glaring sun, the endless expanse of sand, cacti, and brush, it all blurred around her as Blue continued to intercept snakes, guiding her slowly, carefully, toward the rocky outcrop. Her legs were wobbly, her body exhausted, but she followed, knowing without thinking that her survival depended on staying near him, trusting him completely. Every instinct screamed that they were not out of danger yet. Another rattlesnake struck from a burrow, and Blue was there instantly, his body twisting, snapping, barking, a blur of movement. The snake recoiled, missing his strike, and Mia almost collapsed with relief. It wasn't just physical protection. Blue's presence steadied her mind. Her panic lessened, replaced by an incredible awareness that she was not alone, that someone, or something, was watching over her, guiding her through one of the deadliest environments she had ever been in. The adrenaline was exhausting, but it brought clarity. She could finally see a path toward safety, a narrow corridor through the desert brush, and Blue moved first, nudging her gently, urging her forward. Hours, or maybe minutes, she couldn't tell, passed in this tense ballet. She stumbled at times, nearly losing her balance, but Blue remained steadfast, circling, snapping, redirecting, keeping the rattlesnakes at bay. She noticed how tired he must be, how the scratches and dust must weigh on him. Yet he never faltered, never hesitated, never looked away from his duty. And she thought about all the times this dog had likely been overlooked, abandoned, rejected, and she felt a pang of guilt mixed with awe. Finally, the immediate threat of the snakes began to diminish. They slithered back into the shade of rocks and burrows, wary of the relentless little guardian who had thwarted their attacks. Blue's body relaxed slightly, but his eyes remained vigilant, scanning, ready for any sudden movement. Mia exhaled, tears running freely, not just from fear, but from relief, gratitude, and wonder. She knelt down, placing a hand on Blue's head, feeling the warmth of his fur, the small tremor of exhaustion, and whispered, "Thank you. Thank you for saving me." He nudged her shoulder, licking her hand softly, as if to reassure her, to remind her that she was safe now, that the danger had passed, and that he would not abandon her. The bond forged in those relentless, harrowing moments was indelible, an unspoken promise of trust, loyalty, and courage. Even as the sun began to dip lower, casting long shadows across the sand, Mia and Blue remained close, moving carefully toward a distant stretch of shade and potential help. Her body ached, her muscles burned, but she walked with renewed determination, guided by her unlikely hero. She realized, as she glanced down at Blue, that the dog's courage had given her more than just survival. It had given her hope, clarity, and the profound understanding that loyalty and bravery often come from the most unexpected sources. By the time they reached a rocky outcrop that provided some relief from the sun, Mia sat down, leaning heavily against the rocks, letting herself breathe fully for the first time. Blue curled up beside her, alert but calm, and she let herself reflect. The desert had tested her in ways she had never imagined, but Blue's actions had shown her that even in the harshest, most unforgiving environments, courage, loyalty, and intelligence could prevail. And that's where Part 2 ends, the full escalation, suspense, and heroic action. Blue fighting the rattlesnakes, protecting Mia, showcasing intelligence, loyalty, and courage, building the climax for Part 3, where the resolution, aftermath, and emotional payoff will occur. By late afternoon, the harsh light of the Arizona sun had softened slightly, casting long shadows across the desert, and Mia finally allowed herself to pause. Her legs trembled, her arms ached, and her breathing was still rapid, but the immediate danger had passed. The rattlesnakes had retreated into the brush and rocky burrows, wary of the relentless little guardian who had faced them head-on. Blue, the Australian cattle dog, lay down beside her, panting lightly but alert, eyes sweeping the desert as if to make sure no other threat lurked nearby. Mia looked down at him, running a hand over his fur, feeling the warmth, the slight tremor from exertion, and the faint scratches on his legs. She felt tears prick her eyes, not from fear this time, but from overwhelming gratitude. She realized that she had never experienced a connection like this before. A dog nobody wanted, abandoned, and underestimated, had just saved her life and the life of her unborn child. In that moment, Blue was more than an animal. He was a hero, a guardian, and a companion she would never forget. As she caught her breath, Mia's mind began to process everything that had happened. She thought about the sun beating down relentlessly, the heat radiating from the sand, the snakes coiling and striking, and how easily any misstep could have ended the ordeal in tragedy. And then she thought about Blue, how he had darted, snapped, circled, and stood between her and danger, fearless, intelligent, and unwavering. He had not acted recklessly. He had acted with purpose, strategy, and loyalty. The realization struck her hard. Heroism often comes in unexpected forms, and sometimes the most courageous acts are performed not by humans, but by animals. From a distance, she heard voices calling her name. Her rescuer, a park ranger who had noticed a stranded hitchhiker on the edge of the desert, was approaching, followed by another hiker who had stopped to help. Mia's heart leapt with relief, and she stood, steadying herself, with Blue at her side. The dog remained vigilant, ears pricked, muscles coiled, ready to defend if necessary. She could feel the bond between them, unspoken yet unbreakable, and she knew that she could not have survived the desert without him. When the ranger reached them, his eyes widened as he took in the scene. Mia, exhausted, sunburned, her clothes dusty and stained, and the small dog standing protectively beside her. "Is she okay?" he called out, though it was obvious from her shaking but alive posture. Mia nodded, her voice trembling but clear. Yes, yes, thanks to him." She gestured toward Blue. The ranger crouched down to check the dog, noticing the small scratches, the dirt, and the way he remained alert, tail stiff and ears forward. "He saved you," the ranger said softly. "He really did." Mia knelt beside Blue, hugging him tightly. "You saved me, saved my baby," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Blue leaned into her, licking her cheek gently, as if acknowledging the gratitude and understanding her exhaustion and relief. At that moment, Mia realized something profound. She had survived not because of luck, but because of courage, loyalty, and trust embodied in this small, abandoned dog. The rangers guided Mia and Blue toward the nearby road, ensuring her safety and arranging for her transport back to civilization. Along the way, Mia could feel the cool shade of a rocky outcrop and the faint evening breeze, but her mind was focused entirely on Blue. She marveled at his intelligence and bravery, thinking about how many times he must have been overlooked, rejected, and misunderstood by humans. And now, in the vast expanse of the Arizona desert, he had proven himself in a way that no one could ignore. Later, in the ranger station, Mia recounted the story to her rescuers, describing every lunge, every leap, every time Blue had intercepted a rattlesnake to protect her. She spoke of his strategic circling, his calm in the face of danger, and the instinctive way he guided her to safety. The rangers listened in awe, exchanging looks of disbelief and admiration. One of them said, "You know, that dog could have been anyone's pet, but he chose to protect you. That's remarkable." Mia's parents arrived soon after, frantic and tearful. They enveloped her in hugs, asking questions, and then looked at Blue, who had become a small hero in their eyes as well. They had initially been wary of him. He was a stray, an Australian cattle dog, a dog nobody wanted. But now, witnessing the courage and loyalty he had displayed, their doubts vanished entirely. "We should have never doubted him," her mother said softly, stroking his fur. "He's incredible." By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the desert sky in streaks of orange, pink, and purple, Mia had formed a decision in her heart. Blue, the dog who had saved her life, would not return to the streets. He had found a home, a family, and a purpose beyond what anyone had imagined. The bond between human and dog, forged under the most extreme circumstances, had become permanent. She promised herself that she would care for him, honor his bravery, and share his story so that others could understand the depth of loyalty and courage that animals are capable of. Sitting together on a rocky ledge overlooking the desert, Mia and Blue watched as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. The desert was quiet now, the danger gone, but the lessons of the day lingered. Mia thought about trust, about bravery, about the unexpected ways heroism appears. She thought about how often people overlook courage in its quietest forms. Sometimes it comes without a name, without a medal, and sometimes it comes on four legs. She gently rubbed Blue's ears and whispered, "You're my hero, every single day." The story, while concluded in terms of immediate danger, left an opening for reflection. What would anyone do if faced with such peril? How far does loyalty extend between humans and animals? Could a dog sense fear, instinctively guide a human through life-threatening danger, and protect not just their body but their future? These were questions Mia pondered, and questions the audience watching the story would naturally consider themselves. And so the tale ends. Mia is safe, her unborn child unharmed, and Blue, the Australian cattle dog nobody wanted, has been transformed from a stray into a hero. The desert, once threatening and unforgiving, now serves as a backdrop to a story of bravery, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond between human and dog. For viewers, the story provides suspense, awe, and inspiration, while leaving the door open for engagement, comments, discussion, and shared experiences about animals, heroism, and trust. The final image is clear and cinematic. Mia standing beside Blue, the fading sun casting long shadows across the desert sand, the cacti silhouetted against the pink sky, and the sense that life, courage, and loyalty persist even in the harshest of places. The story closes, but the message echoes. Sometimes, the smallest heroes leave the biggest marks.